Welcome back to Retro's Vault, where horsepower never dies. Today we're hitting rewind on a true Mopar icon, the 1970 Plymouth Cuda. You might be thinking, didn't they already cover this beast? And yes, you're right, we did. But due to some pesky copyright gremlins sneaking into the vault, we're giving this episode the full rework it deserves. Think of it as a remastered muscle car. Same growl, sharper polish, even better attitude. This isn't just another rerun, it's a rebirth. Another classic unlocked, another beast revived. Now let's talk about the Cuda. This wasn't just a Barracuda with a chip on its shoulder. This was the bruiser in a leather jacket, the bad boy of the boulevard, and the kind of car that made your dad's Oldsmobile cry itself to sleep. With a body built like it skipped leg day never, and a lineup of engines that made gas stations smile, the 1970 Cuda was the full muscle car package. Because let's face it, modern cars forgot what muscle means. This is what torque, style, and straight up presence looks like. Buckle up, because we're diving back into the legend. Let's take a pit stop for one of the wildest factoids in Mopar lore, the HEMI Cuda. In 1970, only 652 HEMI-powered Cudas rolled off the assembly line, making them about as common as a polite road rager. That's right, these weren't just rare, they were legendary unicorns in a sea of V8 stallions. Packing a 426 HEMI under the hood, with each one came with the attitude of a heavyweight prizefighter who'd had their morning coffee with nitroglycerin. But wait, it gets even crazier. Out of those 652 fire breathers, only 14 were convertibles. 14! That's fewer than the number of people still rocking flip-phones in 2025. These drop-top HEMIs weren't just cars, they were rolling, rumbling Rembrandts, and collectors know it. One example fetched over $3 million at auction, proving once and for all that high-octane history comes with a premium price tag. So, if you ever spot one of these mythical machines in the wild, don't blink. You might miss a 7-figure muscle car cruising by like a thunderstorm on chrome wheels. That's the Cuda. Not just rare, prehistoric predator rare. The kind of car legends are built around, and bank accounts dream of catching. When it came to design and construction, the 1970 Plymouth Cuda didn't just roll off the line. It kicked the door down and lit a cigarette on its way out. Built on Chrysler's brand new E-body platform, the Cuda finally shook off its valiant roots and started into the spotlight with its own identity. It was lower, wider, and meaner, like a street brawler in a tailored suit. John Hurlitz, the young designer behind the Cuda, must have had a flair for drama, because every angle of this car looked like it was flexing. The long, low-slung profile, bold beltline, and sculpted fenders gave the Cuda the stance of a jungle cat ready to pounce. And the front grille? Pure intimidation, like a sneer carved in steel. The body was all steel and muscle, but it wasn't just about looking tough. The new construction gave engineers room to pack in bigger engines, wider tires, and stronger suspension setups. In short, the Cuda shell wasn't just for show. It was a battleground suit. And let's not forget those high-impact colors. Paint names so wild they sound like energy drinks. Vitamin C, Limelight, Plum Crazy. Subtle? Absolutely not. But subtlety was never the Cuda's game. Under the hood of the 1970 Plymouth Cuda was a buffet of brute force, each engine option more outrageous than the last. Standard fare? A 383 cubic inch V8 pushing 335 horsepower, a muscle-bound workhorse that made most traffic lights duels unfair from the start. It was the same beast you'd find in Dodge's 383 Magnum, just with a slightly different snarl. Feeling spicy? You could step up to the 340 6-barrel, a 290 horsepower street streamer with triple 2-barrel carburetors that sucked in air like a vacuum on steroids. This was the heart of the AAR Cuda, small but scrappy, like a welterweight boxer with a mean hook. Then came the 440 Super Commando, a 4-barrel brute dishing out 375 horsepower. Still not enough? Fine. Try the 440 6-barrel. Packing 390 horsepower and 3 hungry carburetors that turn fuel into fury. Towering above them all, like a chrome-plated god of thunder, the 426 HEMI, unleashing 425 ponies with the grace of a wrecking ball. To handle this madness, the big block Cudas got beefed up suspensions and reinforced structures, because when you're packing an earthquake under the hood, you'd better make sure the chassis doesn't split in half just trying to keep up. The drivetrain and transmission setup in the 1970 Plymouth Cuda was less point A to point B and more hold on for dear life. This car didn't just move, it launched. And Plymouth gave you a toolkit to choose your weapon of choice, whether you were cruising the boulevard or storming the drag strip. For the hands-on crowd, there was the legendary A833 4-speed manual, complete with the iconic pistol grip shifter. Grabbing gears with that thing felt less like shifting and more like wielding a battle axe. If you knew how to dance with the clutch, this setup let you wring every ounce of fury from your V8 of choice, especially with the optional Hurst linkage for smoother throws. Prefer a more laid-back, foot on the throttle kind of vibe? Enter the Torque Flight 3-speed automatic. Specifically, the tough as nails A727 for the big block and Hemis, and the lighter duty A904 for the smaller engines. These automatics were no slouches either. Fast, dependable, and perfect for those who wanted to keep one hand on the wheel and the other holding a milkshake or a victory cigar. Whether you like to shift your own fate or let the gears fall where they may, the Cuda's drivetrain delivered the goods with muscle, grit, and just the right amount of attitude. The 1970 Cuda didn't just rely on raw horsepower. It came with a chassis and suspension setup that could actually keep that muscle pointed in the right direction. Think of it as putting a lion on a leash. Still wild, but with just enough control to avoid chaos. Most of the time. Built on Chrysler's E-body platform, the Cuda shared its underpinnings with the Dodge Challenger, but it had a shorter wheelbase, making it a little tighter, a little leaner, and a lot more fun in the corners. Up front, it used the independent torsion bar suspension, which may sound like something from a science lab, but it did the job well, keeping the front end stable under all that V8 weight and giving you decent handling for a car that's more brawler than ballerina. Out back, a solid live axle with leaf springs, because this wasn't some dainty European sports car. It was a muscle machine meant for straight line dominance. But don't be fooled. High performance models like the 440 and HEMI Cudas got upgraded shocks, sway bars, and beefier components to manage the extra power. In short, the Cuda handled like it looked. Bold, unrefined, and always ready to smoke the tires if you so much as thought about the gas pedal. Step inside the 1970 Plymouth Cuda and you're greeted with an interior that's equal parts Street Fighter and Saturday Night Cruiser. It wasn't exactly luxury, but it didn't need to be. This was a cockpit built for throttle junkies, where vinyl met velocity and gauges replaced gadgets. If you're looking for touchscreens and Bluetooth, you're about 50 years too early, friend. The dash was driver focused, wrapped around you like a leather glove gripping a stick of dynamite. You got a rally gauge cluster with a sweeping tachometer, a speedometer that dared you to peg it, and enough auxiliary dials to make you feel like a NASA trainee. Optional extras include rim blow steering wheel, which sounded fancy until you accidentally beeped the horn every time you took a corner too hard. Bucket seats came standard, and you could upgrade to high back sport buckets that hugged you tighter than your high school sweetheart. The center console was available with the signature pistol grip shifter if you went with the 4-speed manual, one of the coolest features of the muscle car era. Tech? Minimal. Soul? Maximum. This was a cabin built for the road, the roar, and the rush, not for cup holders and quiet rides. When you ordered your 1970 Cuda with serious firepower like the 446 barrel or the 426 Hemi, you didn't just get more engine, you got the muscle to back it up with the legendary Dana 60 rear differential. This thing was the equivalent of strapping a bank vault to your rear axle. Beefy, bulletproof, and built to take a pounding. With its 9 3/4 inch ring gear, it could handle all the neck-snapping torque you threw at it without even breaking a sweat. If your Cuda had the Dana 60, you weren't just playing games. You came to dominate the street, burn out smoke, and all. The 1970 Plymouth Cuda didn't just look like a Predator. It had the dimensions to match. At 186.6 inches long and 74.9 inches wide, this car had the footprint of a jungle cat crouched low and ready to pounce. With a wheelbase of 108 inches, it struck a balance between straight line stability and just enough agility to make backroad blasts a whole lot of fun. or terrifying depending on your tire budget. Standing at just 50.9 inches tall, the Cuda had the stance of a street brawler ducking under a porch, low, lean, and full of menace. That roofline wasn't made for top hats or comfort. It was made for aerodynamics and attitude. You didn't climb into a Cuda. You strapped it on like armor. And weighing in at 3,395 pounds, it wasn't exactly light, but it sure knew how to throw its weight around, especially when paired with big block power under the hood. It launched like a wrecking ball shot from a cannon. These aren't just numbers. They're the physical embodiment of muscle car swagger. The Cuda wasn't built to slip through traffic unnoticed. It was built to take up space, turn heads, and dominate anything that dared to pull up next to it. The 1970 Plymouth Cuda came out swinging, and when it landed a punch, it hit like a wrecking ball dipped in nitroglycerin. Its strengths? Let's start with the obvious. Raw power. Whether you chose the snarling 383, the WOW 446 barrel, or the legendary 426 HEMI, this car had enough torque to spin the earth backwards. It also brought killer styling to the table. Low, wide, and aggressive, like it was always looking for its next street fight. Add in eye-popping, high-impact colors, a customizable lineup, and that unforgettable pistol grip shifter, and you had a muscle car dream machine. But even Titans have weaknesses. For one, fuel economy was basically a myth. These engines drank gas like frat boys at a keg party, and while it had improved handling over earlier Mopars, it still preferred straight lines to corners. Wet roads? Let's just say traction was optional. Then there's the insurance premiums, high enough to make even wealthy gearheads break a sweat. Still, weaknesses aside, the Cuda wasn't trying to be perfect. It was trying to be fast, loud, and unforgettable. And in that department, it was a legend. A fire-breathing, tire-smoking, HEMI-powered legend. And that's a wrap on the remastered ride, the legend that is the 1970 Plymouth Cuda. No copyrighted clips, no legal speed bumps, just pure, unfiltered muscle. We give this beast the second take it deserved, cleaned up the audio fuzz, and let the exhaust roar speak for itself. Because when it comes to the Cuda, it's worth doing right, even twice. From its shark-like fender gills to its thunderous HEMI heartbeat, the Cuda was never subtle. It was the kind of car that peeled out of the showroom like it was late to a bar fight. And in a world full of plug-in hybrids and drive mode selectors, this fire-breathing monster reminds us all, real muscle doesn't whisper, it growls. Now I want to hear from you. What's your dream Cuda build? Plum crazy with a 446 barrel, shaker hood with a pistol grip HEMI setup, or are you all about the AAR's Trans Am swagger? Drop your pics down in the comments. And if this redo hit the sweet spot, like, subscribe, and ring that bell because we've got more muscle coming down the line, minus the copyright drama. Until next time, keep it loud, keep it classic.